Hello, this is Max Drake. I want to talk to you about program and file launchers, and specifically MaxLauncher. And now I launch programs in a variety of ways, not only programs but files or activities and things like that. I use some hotkeys for some of my programs. I've got taskbars and things like that. I activate some of the things down here, and I use them quite a little bit for cycling through. Like I will use in the taskbar the Windows 2. That would just switch the programs over, switch one, so that just switch back. So depending, if you use the Windows key, the first icon is Windows and 1, next one is Windows and 2, next one is Windows and 3. So if I'm sort of moving between certain programs, I just drag them across so that if I now press 2, I'm just coming into Notepad++. So that's one of the ways that I just cycle through and launch things as I go along. The other thing that I use is I use Quick Access Popup, which if I'm going to press my middle mouse key, which is the wheel, down, and then I've got a whole load of directories that I can add active folders or web pages to my list and things. I use this for actually navigating my folders. You can actually use this, you can start programs off with it, but I just use it for navigating folders. That's just how I use that one. It does a whole lot of other things as well. The other one that I use is, this is an Alt plus spacebar, and this one here is, I'm just going to type this one here, the U Triffids, and then just go enter, and that just launches YouTube, which is the U at the beginning, and then it's the search word that it's looking for is Triffids. So I've got this one here as well, and I just go D for DuckDuckGo, and then I go Tronks, whatever they are, and that comes through and use that. I'm just sort of used to using these ones. Both of these apps, the Executor one and the Quick Access Pop-Up, most probably are interchangeable. I could use one or the other, but I use them in different ways. One I just navigate to directories, the other ones I just use for a lot of my searches and things like that. It's just over time I've used them and feel more comfortable. Now, the one that I want to talk about today is this one here, and I'm just going to go into settings onto the themes here and put it back as the basic default one so you can see them. And this one just looks like a keyboard, so it has a whole load of the F keys at the top, and it has a whole lot of the tabs, and each of the tabs is just blank keyboards so that you can actually associate any of these keys with something. So if I just go back to the general one through here, and I'm just going to use this one here, and now I want one that I can use. So that F1 key now, I can just press the F1 and nothing happens, and I press it again and F1 actually starts BBC homepage for me there because I've got that. So it's actually activating Firefox. If I do the function F2 once, it should, sorry, no, I've got to have it up, and if I go F2 now, it will actually open up my Notepad++, which is what I've actually got here at this point in time. So it's an easy way to activate things. Now you can do linkages on these ones, and you can just say if I want to go to the first tab, I type 1, I type 2. Now with the settings in this, the settings in these for the hotkeys, there's only one hotkey, and this starts off with the Control plus tilde key. So the tilde is top left just below your escape key on the left hand side of your keyboard. I don't use the tilde. Sorry, I've remapped the tilde as my enter as I'm a lefty, so I've used it to Control plus space, so it pops up on this one here. So that's a program that I've got set up for here, but I've also got Control plus X, which brings up another one. So I've got another one which is exactly the same. This one here is actually, I've just got the settings through here, and it's got a different hotkey. So I've got two versions of the same thing. So if I've got one for maybe work, and I've got one which I've got for home, which is just a whole load of intermingling searching and stuff like that, I can go into the data, and I can actually have, if we go into data and organize the data, I can actually have different menus. And what they do is that maps all of these keyboard ones of whatever you've mapped to these ones. And how do we do that? If we just go onto a letter or something that we're going to do, we right hand click and we type edit, and it comes up with this. So we can target something, like we can target a file or a folder. So if we target a file and we go and say go and open up this one here, so go and open up that, and we just go OK. So if I now go, whoops, what was that? No, I was on the other one, Control plus X on that one there. I'm sorry, if you click off it, it disappears. So Control plus X brings that back. if I bring this one up, it'll activate that particular hotkey program. Now with the Notepad++ ones, you can actually have it so that, or you can do another thing inside these ones here, is if you wanted to open up a specific file. So this one here, if I just right hand click on here and edit, I've got in here that it's going to go through and it's going to go and edit a specific file. So this is going to edit the file. It's not going to go and activate that file. So that's a script that I can activate. Now that's quite handy for me because this is one that I use it for text expanders. So if I just come into here and go AHL, it text expands the AHL changes into auto hotkey, or I can go, no, actually AOT doesn't work, but I've got another hotkey that I can just do a date in or something like that with some other hotkeys and chuck data in. So I've got a whole load of little text expander ones that I'm constantly doing. So sometimes I need to go into this autocorrect script file and actually just update those straight away. So I can do that, and this is then going to fire at that particular program or that particular script each time. But I've also got one up here, which if I go and edit that, you'll see that it actually has an argument called file. So there's no specific file attached to it, it's just one called file. So what that means, if I just go into Explorer, so I'm not going to use that one, I'm going to go in and I'm going to, let's see if I can find one somewhere else. Here, this one here. I'm going to go into this one, so sorry, that was S, I need to type in there. And that one should open up File Explorer, come through there. And if I go down and I find a text, and if I just take that text, so onto that one there, and I just go copy. So it's taken that and put it into the clipboard. And now if I go, which one was it? I think I was on the Control X on that one there. And if I go onto my Notepad 2 and just go F2 now, that will open up that funny text file there. So you can actually just go and copy the file name and then go in and it'll remember that file name and go and find it from where it is. And so that's quite a useful thing to use. It'll also do it with some text. So if you highlight some text and copy it, you can then go into something like your browser, and you can do a Google search, and you can just take that bit of text and paste it on the end so that it'll go and do a search based on that. And again, you know, with these ones here, you can actually just coming up into here, and you can go through, and if I hit that F1 is going to open my browser. And on this particular one here, if we go through and edit, I'm saying go and open up bbc.com on this one here. Now it has these from the point of view of when I started to play with this, I thought, oh, this is really nice. I quite like the idea of it. And I thought I could do everything with one key, but you can't do it with one key because first of all, you've got to make sure it's actually activated. So if that's the Control X one or whatever, you've got to use the Control X, or the Control Tab is the other one that I've got up there. And then I can type R or T or Y or whatever letter I have, or 1 if I want to go on to this one and do something else. But even then, it's a great one. Now, what has really got me excited about this is, to a certain extent, that reminds me of this, which is my Stream Deck. Now, I was a bit touchy, a bit guilty about, I did a video on free productivity tools, and I talked about this one, but this isn't free. This one here is about $300 for doing this. But this does a similar sort of thing to it. Now, this one, the Stream Deck, I can actually just touch the buttons directly, and whatever button I touch, it will go and activate. So if I just go, and I use it all the time for just checking on a website. If I'm going out, I check the weather, or I'm checking the tides, or I'm checking the news or something like that. Or I've got a whole load of other ones on my blog sites through here that I can go through, and I can activate all of my blog sites and go straight in and start editing and adding a new post on a whole load of little projects that I've got. So I find this really, really convenient to do. But what this can do over this here is that from here you can go and put a file or a folder, but you can't put a hotkey, whereas with the Stream Deck you can actually have a hotkey. So what that means with the Stream Deck is that if I have a really long script but I've broken it down into different hotkeys to activate different things, If I want to use it in here, I'd actually have to break each of those little hotkeys out into a separate little script to actually activate through here. So I can still replicate the same thing. I've just got to do it in a different way, to the way that I want. Now, what's got me very, very excited at this point in time is that I use this script through here. So this is our order, and what has actually happened, I've got so many little apps and things like that that I'm building, or I've copied off somebody else, or somebody else has got a great idea, that I want to play with them all the time, but I've only got so many hotkeys that I can remember. So this allows me just to put numbers or letters onto something. So I can start off with C. If I'm into here, I can type off with C. It gives me the next thing. If I go to E for the next one, it only gives me certain commands that I can actually do. So therefore, if I've got a 3, then I know that I can activate that program. If I just hit the tilde T, it's just started to run that one through there. That one's a bit embarrassing since that one doesn't work. So I go tab 4 and go enter, and that started off my other program through there. The thing with this, and this is where I've just got a little bit of a challenge at the moment, is this is written in Order Hotkey version 1 or version 8 or something or other. And they've just come out with a new version 2. Now, the version 2 is not backwards compatible. So either you've got to use one program to run one lot of scripts or another program to run another lot of scripts. So since this is written in version 1, I don't know whether it'll activate a version 2 script. I've yet to try it out on that. But the nice thing is, if I actually wanted to add something more to it, I've got to go in and I've got to edit the original file. If I'm using this, I can actually just go through and go edit, and I can go through and go browse, file, I can go all our hotkey working, version 2. So this is a version 2 something, and I can go and do, I haven't got that many that I haven't already activated actually. Let's just do the keyboard on screen one again and go open through there. So I can now go OK there. Now if I just press that E key, you'll see I've suddenly got the keyboard on here. Now this was a little app that somebody wrote that's really great, so that when you're actually typing, it's a way of learning touch typing, so that you don't actually have to look at your fingers on the keyboard. You can actually just look on the screen and see what things that you're doing. So I thought that was quite a nice little script that I wanted to explore. So that's one that I can do. Now that's written in version 2. Now right next to that is another one, which is version 1, which is W. So if I just hit W through there now, it's come up that it's a certain things run. And now if I just use my key for that, sorry, this one is it's still sitting there. It's coming through on that particular script. So I can now, if I wanted to go and activate a certain text, I can click on that text and up that text runs. So boom. I don't know what happened there. Oh, it didn't. So that's just another script that I've written that I've actually shared with other people if you want to use that one there to do. So I can activate version 1, version 2 scripts. So that works really good. And also I'm playing with Auto IT, which is equivalent to Auto Hotkeys. So I want to play with some of those. So I can chuck all of those onto the same area and access them in the same way. Now again, the Stream Deck I've actually got there because it's $300 New Zealand for it, the one that I've got here. I've only got it on one computer, whereas I can end up with a similar interface on a whole load of other computers. Now this has got a couple of things which I find really good. What I liked about the Stream Deck is that I've got visual icons. As a designer, I like to see icons. I can quickly read which ones I actually want. So on here, I've actually got a keyboard. It's just got a boring icon through there. I can go and either select a different icon and choose a DLL of some description of where I actually want to get one and choose one of these, and I can come through and grab something, or I can actually and go OK through there. So now that's the icon, so I can see that's visually different, and then I can go into this one here and I can say actually instead of that I actually want to browse an image, And I'm just going to go into my screenshots, although I don't think there's any of my screenshots through there. Oh, there's some on PC, so I'll just go into my PC one here, take one of the keyboard or something and go, okay, onto there. And now I've actually got an image through that. So I can then differentiate between all of the other ones. So this is really handy if you've got a whole load of blog sites or something like that. You can put their logos on there, or you're going to news sites or something and you can put all the news sites and things onto there. I find that the F keys don't work as well for me because I'm using a laptop, so I've got a function key. Like a lot of those F keys are usually sound up, sound down, or brightness or dimness of the screen. So you've got to press a function key to make sure before you can hit them. So I'll most probably be using a lot of these lowercase keys. But I've still got to use the 1, 2, 3 to actually jump between all of the different ones through there. Now they do have a thing in the tools through here which says View Group Launch List. And what that initially thought is that suddenly you could end up something saying, like, I've made a new key and you've got to activate all of these other keys all at the same time. So that's quite good. If I come in the morning, I can activate one key to start all the other ones off of which ones I'm actually interested in. But it doesn't do that. The notion of it is that you can end up with one. And what this one does, if I've got these two associated. So if I go into here, this one here is grouped under transfer. Now, if I look on the window here, what it says is that this is supposed to run as a normal window, but on the left-hand side. And what it's supposed to be doing, or the way that it was designed for this particular one, that if I type W, it will activate both W and the Q key, and it will open two versions of Explorer so that one will be into downloads and one will be into somewhere else. But it's not splitting them to the left and to the right of the screen, so I haven't got that working yet. So at the moment, I've actually just got to drag them across to either side, and then I can pull files between the two. So the notion is that it'll activate two and it would split them so that you can straight away look at moving files or something like that around the place. So I thought that was a great idea for what it was coming through to do. Now the nice thing as well is here is that I suddenly thinking, I don't want that on that key, I'm going to drag it across to that key. Suddenly I don't want that on there, I want to drag it across to there. So I can drag that across to there. So I can move my stuff around quite easily. Another thing that I can do is I can suddenly say, well, look, this is actually doing the news. I want to copy that, and I want to go on to another one, and I'm going to put it here and I'm going to paste it. But instead of going to the news, I'm going to go to https stuff.com, I think it is. And then that will go to a different site through there. Then I can change the logo or do something like that. So now if I just hit that W through there, it's going to go and open up the stuff. So wrong. I've got it. Stuff.co.nz is where it's going to. So that's the way that you can do it. So it's very easy to copy and paste a lot of those things. Now, what happens if you do want to end up with a button that fires off a lot of things? Now, I did actually just done a video recently about this auto starter, where you can start a whole lot of things. You can start a file or you can start a program, and it chooses all the things that you actually want to do. So it might be open a directory, open up open up a file with Notepad++, open up Word, open up Excel, open up all of these other ones, and then open up 15 web pages or whatever what you want. And you can create a batch file through there, but then you might update this and then recreate that batch file or something like that. So what I would suggest that people do is that you ended up creating a shortcut to that batch file, and it's in the other video that I'll put a link to. And what you can also do on here, so if I just pop this back up again, I'm just going to drag it over here. If I try dragging this onto there, it disappears, because as soon as I come off this screen here, that disappears. But what there is actually is that you can actually go into the view mode and you can move it into the drag and drop mode. And now I can drag that. So I can actually have a shortcut to a program that will actually go, so it might be a program or a back file or something else that you actually want. So if that file changes, or you've updated or you've modified the information in there, like you're always doing your timesheet and it's going onto one Excel spreadsheet or something like that, you can just actually have the link shortcut to that file, and it would just open up each time. So that's a good way to actually update that on a regular basis. So, and that one there is running to a batch file, and I think that batch file there just runs that script, which is actually just opening up one of the browser ones. But that could be opening up 15 browser things. So that's one if you've got a whole load of tasks that are discrete and different, like you've got maybe opening up some web pages, opening up a couple of programs, opening up a couple of folders of where you're going to be doing. So it's actually in a project basis of you're going to start on a specific project, and there's certain files that you work with or certain folders that you work with. It will open up that environment for you with just the press of one button. So to me, I'm very excited about this. Now, when I was actually looking at the program files on the MaxLauncher, I usually go on to something like YouTube and go and see what there is about that program. There's not that much out there, but the help files are really quite good. The help files through here and support. There's also a website and a support site and things like that goes through so that you can see other people on the forum and what they've actually done and discuss some of the things that they do. So it's a sort of a well-supported documentation, and some of the later comments and things like that are later, so of 2020. So it does seem to be currently looked after. But when I was looking for it, I came across this, which was a little video which says best 25 alternatives to MaxLauncher. So there are a whole load of other launcher programs that are out there. This one I quite like because it tends to have the similar thing to Stream Deck, so it'll work with me. But another one that I use quite a lot is that I use this alternative to net. So you can actually find alternative launchers that you might do. Now, as I said, I use the Executor one. I use the Quick Access Popup for file navigation. So I use the Executor one for actually going and looking up YouTubes and things and dictionaries and stuff like that. I find that one's really good. Or a Google search, like I just type G, so it's a great abbreviation. So it's just G, and then off I go. So I've just done some abbreviations on some of those sorts of things. And now I found this one here, which works similar to the Stream Deck. So that means I can actually have that interface across the stuff. Now it saves it in, so it saves all of these in this. So I'm in that view mode there, which is the drag and drop mode, I think. Now take it out of there. The other thing that you can do is you can hide the empty buttons, so you're only showing the one. So this is quite a good way of, if I'm actually only got a few buttons on certain ones, why don't I pull them all across and have them on once? You know, now since I'm a lefty, I'm really only going to be focusing on having buttons that are actually using these keys down here. The ones to the right I'm not going to be using very much at all. The other one that I actually found as well that was quite interesting, inside my Stream Deck, I ended up trying to build a calculator. I've got a video on something like that. But if I'm actually in my in here, and if I go to tab 2, tab 3, and I'm pressing these buttons on my Stream Deck, it pops these ones along quite nicely. So I find that's quite good. So all I need to do is just hit one of these numbers through here, and then maybe the E button on there, and off that does, and it fires off that script, bang, just like that. So I'm really liking this, but you actually may find that you might like a different sort of a one. There's a circle dock and there's the rocket dock, and I think I've got either a video on that one, and I might also have a in my blog there might be one on rocket dock as well, and other dock launchers and things like that. This one here has just come through at a time when it fits the interface of what I've actually got with the Stream Deck. And it also allows me to actually have allows me to have version 1 and version 2 hotkey scripts right next to each other for different programs for testing out. And the nice thing with this one here is, again, which is the way that I use the Stream Deck a bit, is if I come in and I've got a program in here, and this one I've tried, and I thought, keyboard on screen, yeah, but I don't use it that much now. I'm just going to drag it across. I know it's still there. I've got a link to it, but I'm not using it as much as what I thought I want. If I suddenly want to test it out, I can quickly come across and suddenly think, I'll go back into there. Now, another really powerful thing in here is because you can have so many keys, you know, as in multiple and multiple and lots and lots and lots and lots of them, you can also do a search by, if I do if I come into the search thing, FI, it'll just hides everything else and only show you the tabs of where those ones are. So if there's one on SAV or something like that, SA, it will do those ones. So if I have one on keyboard, it just shows me where the keyboard things were on and those and stuff. So those are them. The other thing as well that I find I quite like, and this is one of the things with Stream Deck, is that a lot of the time, if we get out of there, with here, if you've got it, you can only see a little bit of the information, but in fact you can drag these keys and make them bigger, so that if you've got a little bit of text that you want as an explanation, and sometimes you've got two, I'll actually have two versions of the same script that I'm developing. I've developed one way and I've developed the other one the other way, so I need to differentiate between an A and a B, and it might be a C and a D or an E or something like that. I can actually put those ones on there. So this allows you to actually have multiple versions on there and actually add a little bit more note and still have the same logo and suddenly saying, yeah, that's the A one and that's the B one. And so inside, when you're actually doing the edit through there, if I'd actually had file save launch like that and go OK, oh, did I OK that? Oh, there, you see it sort of squashed it down, but if I push that up, sorry, I'm going to go back into there again. If I go and push that up, it's sort of what you find is, again, if you squeeze it sideways, suddenly a lot of the text gets shortened down. It's harder to read. So making the button, because you're actually just using this to get to the button, so you're suddenly saying this is the hotkey, this is the button that I actually want. It's good that you're doing it, so you're actually activating scripts or things like that. So a lot of times you're not interacting with what's in behind on the actual screen itself. But if it is, you can move it off to the side, and as long as it's active and as long as you're in the right thing, you know, even if I'm doing something like, if we just go back to that number 7 one there, and that one there is the colon, and I've got that right off to the side there, or even somebody else was mentioning this being totally minimized. As long as you know where you are, and if I just use that colon one, it will actually activate that keyboard one, and it should. Is it that one I did? Well, let's just do that. So there we are, it's active, and if I do that, it'll actually bring up the keyboard one as I actually want it through there. So you can actually have it so that it's minimized, although to me, I think at this point in time, since I'm not actually interacting with the there's a couple I don't know whether I can use, you know. Now, one that I find really handy that I use all the time is I've got a hotkey which is Control-2, which just puts a date, or I've got in different formats. And I think there's and they're all a double tap or triple tapping on the same key, so that's Control+2, and I have one which is a signature sign-off type thing, so I'd need to put them into a separate little script file. So at the moment I've got double, triple, quadruple taps on the same keys, whereas this one I might actually, and why I'm making that point is that I might be actually taking a file and taking that file and renaming it. A lot of the times, and this is something that I do quite a lot, is that I put the date on the end of the file. So I don't know whether I can actually do that or whether I've got to keep those as a hotkey. But if I do, then I've just got to keep them as a hotkey or something. So there's things that they do work on, and there's things that they don't work on. And this is where I've fired up so many of these different things now that I've got to get keyboard on screen is the one that I actually want to exit. You find, you know, that one actually, this is one, there's a little command with the order hotkey scripts, is that you can just, I think there's ones where you can actually just suspend all the hotkeys, or you just close all the scripts down. Okay, that's not it. Suspend hotkeys. There's one that suspends everything, and then there's ones that actually just closes. I think it's just closed scripts and it closes everything. And in fact, the better way to do that, and this is it, when I start ending up with a whole load of scripts, you've got to come down and close them individually. One of the ways to do it is actually just have one key that opens up the ones that I actually have by default open all the time. So I can actually just run that. And I think that's what I need to do with the little batch file using this particular tool to do that. And that's have the one that just fires that out. So it shuts everything down and then just opens up this one here. So I'm finding this a really handy tool that works with with what I want. You know, you can size these differently. There is one thing here, when you size these keyboards, the keyboard size, but these ones aren't. But you can actually size those separately. You can't size them that way. They all size that way. But another thing that I just want to draw your attention to, there's a good thing on program information telling you where all of the files are actually kept. I find that very, very useful. And it's also got the website link, and it's got the update one for those as well. So it does have some themes, and there's some rather wicked ones out there. The dark one is the one that I'm using pretty much all the time. The other thing with that, in the options ones, you can actually have it so it's always on top. You can have it as a single instance, so it only opens up the one instance. So you might end up having more than sufficient tabs. You don't have that many hotkeys, such that you only need one version of it. But you might suddenly saying, I want one thing which will just work on my work stuff, and I have another one which I just want my personal, and I'll run them both together. Or you can suddenly say, no, the first three tabs are for my personal, the last three tabs are for my personal, and the first four are my different project which I'm working on. So there's a whole way lot of ways that you can use this that I'm still exploring at this point in time. I find that one's really good. You might just suddenly find, like the Executor one, which I'm using. There's a whole load of other ones similar to that one. Seed Launch, and there's one called Launchy, and there's one called Docky, and things like that. One called Launchy, and there's another one called Wix, I think, through there. I used all of those, and in the end, these ones work for me. You know, some of them are very, very sophisticated, and it's the same with the Quick Access Pop-Up. You know, I just find that one, this is really handy because it's a middle mouse button and it pops up there. I find this is really good as I'm going through files or something like that, is that I'm working in a file. And the other thing which I find really useful with this is that it's not active in some programs. So if I'm in a PDF where I'm actually needing to use the mouse for zooming and scanning and things like that and dragging across, you can just suddenly say, don't work in there. So that Quick Access Pop-Up doesn't work in that one. But I could be in that program, but I actually want to do a query on a certain thing, or I want to look up a certain product. And that's where this one works very well. So this is why I suddenly really realized why I use different tools for different ones. So although they're all doing program launchers, because of the way that I'm working in BIM or CAD or all of that sort of thing, or with PDFs where I'm using 3D PDFs and stuff, I've got to disable the Quick Access Pop-Up. Otherwise, that I can't use it for the middle mouse button. I can't use for dragging. That's where the Alt plus spacebar pops this up, that I can suddenly go and do a quick web search on a certain product or a bit of odd thing that I actually need to go and find out about. So one works when the other one doesn't, and so that you've got them in different arenas as to what they do. And as I said, that one is just one that I just think of with the searching. The other one that I'm starting to use now is highlighting a bit of text that I actually want to do, and then just going into bookmarklets and just going DuckDuckGo, so search there. Is that I'm on one page and I'm just doing, because I'm in the web area overall, I can actually go touchscreen, marklets through there, and wiki search through that. You know, so it's horses for courses and out screen. Oh, that's good. Maybe I should try with the touchscreen. So that goes somewhere else. So this works for me. I'm very, very excited about it. and it looks as if it's meeting a need that I need just at this point in time for working on these different versions, and the fact that some of the codes aren't backward compatible, and that I can actually just have little code snippets around the place such that I can actually fire up different ones and test them out to see how useful they are. So the point is that I think it's actually a very good thing. From that, it would be nice if you could link hotkeys onto some of those other buttons and things like that, like you can with the Stream Deck. I really can't see why you can do that, but I can rebuild my scripts to actually make those ones work quite conveniently, so I'm not that fussed. But a great tool. Now, there is a lot of information. I'll put a link to the website. I'll put a link to these alternative ones for videos. I'll put a link to the Alternative 2 Net, which is a very, very useful site if you're looking for tools that you found something that does sort of what you want, but there might be other ones out there that could do something better. That's a good way of actually finding them, although usually you need a starting point. I've found this program, what other ones that are similar to that will do those sorts of things. So I hope that's been of interest to you. If you found it useful, please give a thumbs up. Otherwise, op pan your heart.